So first, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Jennicet Gutierrez. Annually, they do like a reception at the White House where they bring members of the LGBTQ community. That includes activists, organizers, organizations that really cater to the community, right? And kind of work and within the community for progress and things like that. So the president had this speech back in May 24 of 2015. So I was invited to go to the White House and to listen to the speech that he was going to give to the community.
Can you talk a little bit about the action, and also how did you came to plan it and have that idea, and why it was important as well?
Well, the action came about because I am a member of Familia, Trans Queer Liberation Movement. It's an organization based in LA, founded by Jorge Gutierrez and Isa Noyola, and they're growing as an organization nationwide. It's mostly to fight for racial justice, economic justice, and trans justice, among other issues that affect the Latinos, Latinas in the United States. So I started getting involved with that organization and just being visible in different demonstrations in LA. We were contacted by another organization, Get Equal, that they had tickets to go to the White House, and they had an extra one, so they wanted to know if they knew like a trans woman who wasn't documented who might be willing to be part of the action. So they thought of me, and then Jorge and Isa kind of reached out and kind of discussed it briefly. I think it was like a week before the dinner event. So we kind of, without hesitation, I said yes, right? And I was just very honest, I'm undocumented. There's other issues that might prevent from me going, so maybe you can have a backup plan. So I just gave them all the information, and yeah, it just got clear, and that's how I went to DC.
And then you were there, and I think everybody have seen it on the internet, the video where you intervene and you give some statements about the situation of the immigrant people in this country. And can you talk about that moment, how you felt?
Yeah, well, the message was clear, right? We have a sector of the community who are being held in detention centers, and these are especially trans women who are coming from their home countries because they're living in a lot of violence and abuses that they're facing. So they want that opportunity just to be able to succeed and thrive, right? And without having to face whatever they're leaving behind. But they turn themselves in at the border, and they're put in detention center while the judge makes a decision on what's going to happen in their cases. So as I'm getting involved in activism, I'm speaking to some of my sisters who were in detention centers and the abuse that they're facing, the misgendering, the labs, the physical abuse, and if they try to complain, they get punished for that. So to me, all these injustices and just the fact that I am trans, I'm undocumented, the possibility of going into this, in one of these detention center was really urgent for me to speak up. So just going into that space, being surrounded with the community, LGBTQ community, and hoping that they will back me up, but then that wasn't the case, right? So then the president comes out, and I just really processing a lot of information and feeling really nervous. And at one moment I actually doubt if I wanted to go through with it. But then I thought about the stories that I've been hearing about, right? The mistreatment, and I just said, I won't have this opportunity. So I just wanted to do it at that moment, and that's when I interrupted the president.
But I don't think it was that easy for you to stand up, and it's very brave. So I would love to hear more about your sentiments and how that felt.
Yeah, seeing the reaction from my community, I really felt very devastated. You know, it was really heartbroken. Again, I'm going through so many emotions. Having that opportunity there, you know, do I just let it go and just try to reach him after he speaks, but then nothing is going to change. You know, everything will remain the same. The mainstream public is not going to really hear this issue that it didn't happen at that moment. It's an issue that other organizations have been trying to raise, and the administration knows what's really happening inside these detention centers. So they were really doing much, right? They wanted to continue to bring people in and things like that. So to me, that was very important to speak up and raise my voice, and not just my voice, but the voice of a community who is suffering. So that reaction was really, really heartbreaking. You know, I was just being part of it. Like, they know that we as a community of LGBT have faced many challenges to be able to make progress. But how can we celebrate progress for some whilst others are really behind? And those are the ones that we really need to concentrate on, right? How do we get back to that community, the most marginalized, the ones that are continuing to be oppressed? How do we join them and really get them on board and make a difference? And obviously, this is the mentality that they didn't have, because the reaction was clear. They wanted to silence my voice. They wanted to say that wasn't for me, you know, but hopefully that will teach something for them and they can come around it and realize that we need to really unite and come forward. Even if they don't, we're still going to continue to organize ourselves and demand, you know, justice and dignity. So again, it was very heartbreaking. It was very difficult because, you know, one expects a little support, right? They're like, well, you're surrounded with activists. You don't think they had other issues that they care about, but they weren't that, you know, disrespectful or whatever. But obviously, the urgency might vary, and this is an urgent message that I believe it's kind of torture that is happening not only inside detention centers, but also the violence that we are facing outside of detention center. And one of the violences that so far we lost at least 18 transgender women who have been murdered. You know, so that to me is just alarming. It's devastating. So yeah, again, it was just I was very disappointed. It was very tough to digest that reaction. But now I know where we stand as a community and the work that we still need to do.
This is affecting everybody, and everything that affect one affect everybody. That's how it should be taken, right? Like, so with that, I would love to hear more about the organization you're part of and like what they're doing in LA. Like, if you can talk a little bit about it. Like after that, like what is the struggle? What's going on right now? Like,
yeah, no, the organization I'm part of, Familia Trans Queer Liberation Movement, continues to put pressure on the administration on issues that affect the trans and queer Latinas, right? As an undocumented woman, we do have a challenge to be able to process our immigration status. So we do want to put a lot of emphasis on this community, who we are the most vulnerable. And then we also face other challenges there, like access to jobs, which kind of is economic justice, right? And then we also have racial justice issues that we're facing. We can see the amount of violence that we're facing as a community, especially communities of color, with police brutality, right? Killing black people, basically. And it's just a lot of things happening at the moment. So we are determined to continue to stay focused and really fight back against the system. There's the structural violence that creates all this cycle of oppression. So as an organization, I'm really grateful to be part of, because I do believe that with putting pressure and doing direct actions is the way to agitate the system and really see a difference to benefit the community. So we are working with other organizations in LA. One of them is founded by Bambi Salcido, another amazing trans Latina activist, and her organization is Trans Latina Coalition. So we're trying to kind of see what will be the next steps, right? And just see what do we have to do as a community and support each other. And we'll continue to do work on the No One More campaign, which was the big message at the interruption, right? I wanted to start with being LGBTQ, but I think leaving, as I was quoted out, I was chanting the campaign, which is No One More deportation. And that basically includes all the people outside the LGBTQ community. So we are working on that. What will be the next tragedies? Well, how we're going to really take direct action to continue to raise this issue to the mainstream, to continue to put pressure to the administration. So that's another big step that we are doing and figuring things out. Again, also bringing the transgender community who is currently detained inside detention centers. So that's another thing we are working on. We do have a campaign that will be released next week on one case that we've been working on, and it's going to be on the national platform. So we're going to bring more issues out that this is still happening. So hopefully we can be successful and get this trans woman out of the detention center and continue to put more pressure until we have released all LGBTQ people inside these detention centers. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we're still organizing, we're still having calls, and obviously figuring things out how we're going to do it, and it just takes time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we want to see results fast or, do actions within a day, but it takes, it's a process that takes time. So I'm excited to be part of an amazing organization. I'm excited to be here building community, building support with other people that understand where all these issues are coming from, and we want to challenge that.
So I want to ask a question about, you mentioned the system, and now we are approaching elections, and the system has brought us Trump as a candidate, like a very rich, racist businessman. I would love to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised at the way they're really, because this system, the political system, they already plan things ahead of time. So they're really trying to, even if he wins or he doesn't win, maybe it will benefit the community, who knows. But I know he's really putting a lot of, Donald Trump is putting a lot of attacks on the immigrant community, especially Mexicans, right? Because he directly, explicitly mentioned our community, our people. So that's why, to me, it's very critical and super important that the other community who are undocumented or who really care about immigration know that we are also part of it, and that we are also facing challenges and to bring us in. Even if they don't bring us in, we're still going to organize and take action, right? But if we support each other, we can really make a better impact in the upcoming elections, right? Even doing whatever we have to do. So I'm not surprised. This is something that this nation has founded itself on, right? Racism and white supremacy. So the fact that there's so much resistance since the very first day and continues to be, that gives me hope, right? So this is my hope that I don't want to put too much time on Donald, because he's going to continue to do and do whatever he has to do to separate and divide our own community. So that's why, to me, speaking up, reaching out to people is so critical. That way people can start connecting the dots and connecting how we are also being affected by these racist attacks on our community, and hopefully we can overcome this brutal attacks, right? And continue to dehumanize our existence, continue to strip the human dignity that we deserve, and no one should be taking that away from us. But unfortunately, sometimes they could be successful and really divide people. But as an activist and organizer, it is my responsibility to counter that and put that humanity face to our struggles and issues, and then that people can see that we are in this together, and united we can fight back.
Great. Like if you can talk more about the conditions on the detention centers and actually like the cases that you are connected with, and you how is the process, how you guys learn about it, how you like use the support.
No, that's really good, and it's something that I am also learning as I'm getting more familiar with the issue, as I'm speaking with different undocumented trans women who were inside these detention centers. I know there in Southern California we have a few in the city. One is in Santa Ana, which has a division with the Santa Ana Police Department, and that is like a detention center LGBTQ pod, right, with houses trans women and gay men who are together in that. But then there are also other throughout the nation that doesn't have that division. So trans women are being housed with men, which makes them more vulnerable to violence, physical and sexual abuse and things like that. So I know there are a few throughout the city, even here in San Francisco. I believe there's one in Richmond. So it's about people taking that initiative to find out, right? Go through the site of the immigration. Perhaps it can give you a list of detention centers. That would be a good way to kind of find out the visiting schedules and see.
And they are private?
I believe some are private, yes, for the most part, yeah. So it's just, it's this whole new way of trying to make profit out of our suffering. That's why to me it's so important to be able to reach out to people who have been inside this detention center and speak about their conditions and that they're facing. So that's a good way to, because I mentioned, I was part actually of a workshop where we had two trans women who were released, and one of them said, like, we didn't know there was a community outside fighting for us, but we need to have at least some, contact. So that's very important. That gives them, that support that they need. Unfortunately, most of them don't have that family support. So just seeing people that come and see them would be really important to do so. So just kind of do a little research and find out where are the detention centers in your area. Find out if you can make a day, or even if it's every 2 weeks, kind of go see someone that it's in there. Just talk to them, see what's really going on. And other ways, like you can reach out organizations who are doing work around this specific issue and support, because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, right? Like the resources are very limited, and once they get released, it's a challenge to reintegrate them into society.
Do you know a little bit about the process when they are released? They are released here, they are released, deported straight to the country, how that works, the case.
Right. The two cases that I'm familiar with, one is Nicole Hernandez, an undocumented trans woman from Guatemala, who turned herself in at the border, and she was put in Arizona. And she's been there 6 months, I believe, and it became a national campaign. And with the pressure, she finally got released, and she won her political asylum case. So once she got released, she didn't really have family here. So the community kind of started supporting her and housing her with different members who had the space available, right? But then she still has a lot of support that she needs after. So that's why it's so important for people to reach out to organizations and donate, so we can provide the services, the essential basic services that we need to survive, right? Until we build that support and get back into society. So that's one case. Another one is Jessica. She's also from Guatemala, who was actually detained in Santa Ana. And the day we had an action, she was released. But again, she didn't have any family here. So we kind of had to come together as a community and try to find places for her to stay and help her with the process, making sure she didn't miss any court dates coming up, because if you miss, then they can dismiss your case. So it's very important to be on top of all those things. And yeah, they both talked about how the misgendering was so horrible, how the officials were making fun of them, how other people were making fun of them, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and if they kind of complain about the conditions, like they basically are told, to shut up and deal with it, right? And even get punished sometimes in solitary confinement. And the reason behind that, ICE will say, well, that's the safest place for trans people. That way they don't have to be harassed, but they're also doing a lot of harm psychologically. So it's a tough thing.
So they put you in solidarity for your own safety. So
that's what they claim. ICE official claims like we are going to put you in solitary confinement away from the population so you won't be harassed. But that is really, to me, in my opinion, is torture.
It is.
Right? Being isolated from any other kind of human contact and just being in this really, really enclosed space, it's really traumatic for many.
Something that was created for punishment should not be a solution for safety.
Exactly.
Yes. As a trans woman, in society about the prejudice and the bigotry, in the whole aspect that I was just mentioning about in schools, especially for growing up, for young kids, how hard it is and how society is very discriminating and very prejudiced against it, right? And it's very sad.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately, because people can get around the concept of the gender binary being such a diverse spectrum, right? Because we are told that we are either one or male or female. So they kind of disregard everything in between, right? The gray area that gives us who wants to be who you are, right? And express it freely without any source of discrimination, violence. But yeah, being transgender, we're facing challenges, and it's not something new, right? Because now we are gaining more visibility. Doesn't mean, they just came, they're just all of a sudden, we are now finding out about transgender people. Well, your community has been a historical part of it for many years, right? Facing a lot of discrimination, facing a lot of family rejection. So now we have issues, right? We have bathrooms where supposedly we're being targeted because if we go into we're going to start doing, sexual abuse or things like that. This is a very, very, very fearful tactics that they use to kind of keep not allowing us to fully be part of society.
Segregate.
Yeah, to segregate our identities, to invalidate our humanity and say, because you're trans, you just cannot be part of it. So yeah, we do face a lot of issues, and within the system, if I break the law because my identification doesn't really match my appearance, if I do get convicted and have to go to prison, they're going to put me with men, right? They're not going to care if I really represent the female or visually or something, and they're just going to house me with men, which is going to put me more vulnerable to violence and you say harassment and things like that. So that's a big issue that we face. The misgendering is extremely, extremely difficult for many of us. And also we're facing violence on the streets because we don't have the resources. Again, we don't have the family support. We have to find ways to survive. And sometimes we connect with people that we believe they're going to help us, and in the end they end up killing us, right? Many of us find partners. Sometimes there's been cases where even their own family member kills or bodies. It's just so sad, and it's just time for us to say we can't take this anymore. We've been fighting for years, and we're going to continue to fight. And one way is for us to be able to share our struggles, be able to share our pain and how difficult we really have it in this system. And once we start bringing these issues and hopefully finding solutions, how can we really make our lives better for everyone?
Is there anything else that I'm not asking that you would like to talk about or mention or share?
No, basically, I don't want people to, Jenny said interrupted, now this is something new. I want people to really understand that this is a struggle that's been happening for many years, right? So this is nothing new. So to start getting more attention to what's happening to the transgender community and the non-gender conforming community, we have so many challenges still that need to overcome and really work together as a community and really start educating yourselves, or at least let us speak up. Don't shut our voices down. Don't leave us out of the conversations. Bring us in to the conversation and really listen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennicet.